All right, ladies. So we are on chapter 9, page 77. I feel like we're going slowly, but we're really like digging deep, We're really learning every part of the skills. Okay. So not all of you are going to relate to this because, if you've been married, I guess for a very long time, it comes a point where we have these thoughts of like maybe I married the wrong man, maybe I shouldn't be with him. So if you've ever thought this, then you can relate to this. So I'm just going to discuss it because I feel like, we're all I've thought about this. I felt it. So I feel like if I felt it, probably a lot of us have felt it. So we're just going to talk about it. Why wives cause most divorces and what to do instead. Meaning she's not blaming us. She's not saying that we cause. It's not to blame us, just to let us know how much power we have and that we have the power whether our marriage ends up working out or not. How to stop wanting a divorce. Like if the relationship is to that degree where we feel like we want to get divorced, we're kind of like we're on the fence. We can't decide. Do I want to be with him? Do I not want to be with him? And it's a very difficult place to be. It's a very it's indecisive. It's like, what do I want? I don't know what I want, like on the fence type of feeling. If you have threatened to leave your husband, that threat is terrifying him.
Terrifying.
You might think he doesn't care, but he does. He's taking it very personally. Sometimes we get into our fight, our self-care is very low, and I'm so sorry, guys. I just have to stop for a second because, okay, let's just get back to where we started. If you have threatened to leave your husband, that threat is terrifying him. You might think he doesn't care, but he does. How many times you know, we were in a passionate like argument or whatever, and it's the D word just comes out. Like I know in a lot of the Kala classes, the teachers always teach if you don't want to get divorced, don't even bring it on the table. Don't even say the word. But sometimes things escalate and we kind of forget what we want to our dignity and who we really are, and the word might just pop out. He's taking it very personally that you're not happy, and it's making him defensive and nervous every day. The odds of regaining a strong connection under those circumstances are very low. Meaning, if he's always feeling nervous and defensive, the odds of regaining a strong connection are very low. It's very hard to gain a strong connection when he's all he's doing is defending himself all day long, which means that things have very little chance of getting better. Therefore, one of the first steps to revitalizing your relationship is getting off the fence, meaning making a decision. Do I want this marriage or do I not want this? But it can be scary to jump down too. If your goal is to get off the fence gracefully, land on the married side, and feel inspired about doing it, you'll need to know how to turn the clock back to the beginning of the relationship. Would you want to be in a relationship with a man who wooed you? Meaning, would you want to be in a relationship the way that it was when you started at the beginning? Think back to what your husband was like when you first met, and he was always making you laugh, telling you how wonderful you are, and bringing you presents to show how he was thinking of you. Would you want to be in a relationship with that guy? Because he's the guy who will show up once you begin implementing the 6 intimacies. So the power is in our hands. Once we decide what we want, I want to stay married. That's when we're in power. You may be so thoroughly put off by your husband right now that you can't remember what you ever liked about him. If you're anything like I was, you secretly believe that you're smarter than your husband, and you're probably gone around gathering evidence for this. Like the time he hired the crooked contractor, the time he overpaid the car, or the time he missed the freeway exit and took you 20 minutes out of your way. You think of these instances as proof that he's not capable or competent. So whenever we decide, we have this story in our head, I'm smarter than him, I know better than him. When we believe this, when we have this belief, we're going to look for proof that's going to prove this belief to us. So if we really want to see him in a different light, we have to find proof for that, and we'll find it. We have to just change our perspective. Because of this, you've been trying to teach him how to improve in certain areas. So when we believe that we're smarter than him and we're more capable, we go into the space of trying to teach him. You can tell yourself that you're trying to help, you're trying to save money, you're trying to make sure he has a good relationship with the kids, or that you don't run out of propane, or the colored clothes don't get bleached. But the end result is that you're emasculating your husband. When we come in and we do all these things and we're trying to help, we make him feel emasculated. We make him feel like he's not a man, that we don't trust him. But the end result is that you're emasculating your husband, who very likely does things completely differently than you would, unless he's trying to do them your way to keep the peace. How many times have our husband done exactly what we wanted, but not because they want to? They're just doing it because we nag and nag and nag and nag. And it's like, I just want you to be quiet. I'll just do it your way. But in the end, he's not happy. I'm not happy. Nobody's happy. And it's not conducive to our relationship, to building that intimacy. But even if he's doing things your way, chances are that he's not happy about it. And you're actually not either. Not really. If that's what you really wanted, you could have saved everyone a lot of trouble and just married yourself, but you didn't. You married someone who had a different point of view. But
yeah, it's always in my class.
Yeah, I think it's just a picture of her.
Oh,
Yeah. Like there's a book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus, that we come from completely different cultures, completely different outlooks in life. And instead of, wanting him to be exactly like us and doing things our way and thinking I'm smarter, I know better, if only he just did everything the way that I would do it. So why did we marry someone who's like not us? He's a different person. So it's about accepting his point of view. I wasn't nagging, I was helping. Men tend to do a lot of things differently than women. That doesn't make them wrong, but it can be difficult for us women to wrap our brains around their methods. There are many situations where you and your husband have different approaches, like handling finances, child rearing, and lovemaking. There are a myriad everyday things, kitchen cleanup, car maintenance, retirement planning, laundry, where you might see the world differently than he does. One way to cope is to decide that your way is right and his way is wrong. So when we already have the story and decide that my way is right and his way is wrong, this is when the disconnect happens. You can be outwardly tolerant about this, rolling your eyes only to yourself when the bathroom sink is still dry and the floor is covered with dust bunnies. But when the stakes seem high, it's pretty hard to keep your superiority complex under wraps. After all, it could result in a higher tax bill, disappointed kids, or damaged cars if you don't show him how things are done the right way, your way. It starts out innocently enough with a suggestion. If you wash the whites in hot water instead of warm, it come out cleaner. Like, meaning we want him to do things our way because it's better. Like things, yeah, it's true. We know how to do things better. But when we're always showing up and we're always doing everything our way, first of all, it kills the intimacy. And second of all, we're exhausted because we're always doing everything. But so much of what we consider helpful in wife language actually comes across as critical to your husband. What he hears is, I don't like your way. You should do it my way. Let's say your husband grunts and accommodates your suggestion, but goes back to his old ways the next time he starts the laundry. You might decide to remind him again, thinking he just forgot. What's the harm in that? Most women don't see any harm, but men do. They would consider that exchange emasculating to think of you as a nag. How to pretend to stop nagging but still keep doing it. Doubting him instead of remembering that I married a smart, capable guy didn't serve any of us. What I wanted was an intimate, passionate, peaceful partner, but instead I treated him like a child who needed constant supervision. Now I no longer remind my husband to pay bills, and he doesn't forget to pay them. The guy was making car payments since before I got my driver license, so I'm not sure where I got the idea that he might stop doing that once we were married. When I started respecting him by expecting the best outcome, my anxiety melted away because it was unfounded. My husband is smart enough to notice me trying to control him, like I'm his boss or his mother, instead of his lover. No matter how clever my wording, experience tells me that if I try to get him to change the oil this weekend, I'll end up with a husband who is completely committed to not changing the oil. Because he doesn't want to be controlled, managed, or mothered. It's simply not respectful or a dignified way for a wife to behave. You finally have the right instructional manual. So when we don't know better, we do what we know. We do what we saw our parents do. And once we learn the skills and we use them, they really, really do work. Today, I hardly even think about the little chores like oil changes and bill paying. My husband takes care of all those things and is always thinking of new and amazing ways to please me every day. I don't ask him to do that. He does it on his own because he wants to delight me. The result is that everything gets done and we both feel loved. However, it wouldn't be that way if I had listened to conventional wisdom about marriage. It's so sad how we have been so poorly trained to communicate in our relationships. I caused myself plenty of distress by doing the very things that the experts said to do, attempting to reduce the conflict in my marriage. One really helpful way to feel hopeful and inspired is to realize that you probably never had the right information about how to get back to playful, passionate relationships before now. Remember, there's no relationship 101 in schools where we were supposed to learn about how to have a great marriage. Where were we supposed to learn about how to have a great marriage? In Cosmo or Glamour? But imagine what you could accomplish with the right information. What if you had all the skills to really bring back the magic you felt in the beginning? Wouldn't that make you a lot more excited to try? Never ask a man this question on page 81. One common mistake I see women making in their relationships is asking the guy where the relationship is headed. That never works because we women are the ones who decide the course of the relationship. So she gives an example of a woman who was separated from her husband, and she says that her question was, should I ask him how he feels? Sometimes we kind of get into this place where we're kind of not talking to our husband. So she wanted to know, like, how's he feeling? So Laura redirected her by asking her, how do you feel? What do you want? So we focus on him. What does he want? How is he feeling? He. But instead we need to focus, how do I feel? What do I want? She said, well, I don't know if this is going to work out or not, which is not a feeling or a desire. I asked her again, what is it that you want to happen? If you could wave a magic wand. So she decided, I want my marriage back. She finally admitted, I want us to get back together. How do I disable the ding dong? It's like distracting me and it's hard for me to focus. Okay. A lesson for next time. I'm always learning how to use this Zoom. Now we had the information that really mattered, her desire, not how he felt. Most husbands would rather we never ask them how they feel. It's not respectful to male culture. So women are in touch with their emotions and men are in touch with their thoughts. They're mostly in their head. That's why when we express whatever you think, that's like the utmost respect for them because we're respecting how they think. We trust how they think. So a lot of times we express our men to be emotional, like how are you feeling? Like a lot of this conventional wisdom, they kind of tap into, talk about your feelings, but men, they don't want to be talking about their feelings. Most men don't like to talk about their feelings because that's not their area of strength. Men tend to be good thinkers, and women are generally better at feeling and expressing their feelings. If you're not paying attention to your desires and feelings, and instead are saying to your husband, what do you want? How do you feel? You're completely lost. And the reason you're so lost is because you're scared. You don't want to admit that you feel lonely or that you miss him because that feels vulnerable. You don't want to be the first to say, I want to be a couple again because it's emotionally risky. It seems safer to make him say it first. I suggested to Tanya that Tanya say something about along the lines of I'm really missing you and whenever I see you, I enjoy it so much. It makes me wish we could go back to the way it was when we were husband and wife under the same roof. I would be so happy if we could do that. Tanya let out a nervous laugh when I said that. That is what I want, she admitted, but I don't think I can say that. How many times do we know what we want, but we're not ready to say? It takes a lot of humility to be vulnerable and to express what we want. But on the other side of that, there's a lot of light, there's a lot of connection. There's like that that connection back to the relationship of how it started. That's the challenge about being respectful. Sometimes it's pretty scary. In fact, practicing intimacy skills in general takes a lot of courage. You can't reconnect with your husband by asking him what he thinks is going to happen. Relationships are up to women. So if you're asking him, you're asking the wrong person. Your power lies in expressing your desires in a respectful way. So that's where our superpower is, and not asking him, what do you think? Where do you think this is going? Our power is in expressing our desires in a respectful way. Like this is like a huge highlight. If I had to like highlight the whole book, I feel like up to now, I feel like this is the main takeaway. Focusing on our power, not on him, but on what can I do? How can I make my relationship successful? When all the oxygen leaves the relationship, the most common mistake I see women making in relationships is the same one that I made for years before I finally painfully realized what I was doing wrong. And even then, I couldn't stop right away, not until I developed a system to help me. The trouble starts the fateful day we decided to be helpful. We think we're just giving useful suggestion, sharing something we know that he apparently does not. But what we're really doing is letting him know we don't think he could figure it out on his own. The helpful suggestion is rife with disrespect, but the wife often doesn't realize this. She's convinced that she's just trying to help. Husbands respond very poorly to disrespect, even if wives don't realize they're being disrespectful. For men, respect is oxygen. It's that important. So the minute a wife is disrespectful, her husband gets defensive. He's trying to shore up his own sense of himself. He may do this by dismissing her or demeaning what she said. He might say something like, you don't know what you're talking about, or give it a rest, or even shut up. Now the wife, who was only trying to be helpful, is hurt. So she also responds from a defensive position, maybe by telling him to stop being so mean. Things are not improving, they're escalating. Now the husband says something mean back, and they engage in a full-blown fight. Both husband and wife get hurt. This happens over and over, so many times that both of them begin to feel totally hopeless. I can tell when women are stuck in this cycle because they usually describe their husband as cranky, cold, or clueless. They talk about what a terrible temper he has or how distant he is, always watching TV, playing video games, or looking at his phone. They have no inkling, no concept of how much they have contributed to his hostility. I'm not saying that you're responsible or that it's your fault. However, you have a lot of influence over the culture of your marriage. And when you change the way you talk to your husband, he will respond to you differently. If you go out of your way to be as respectful to him as possible, you're going to get a much better response. So she's talking about us really, really tapping into our power. We are so, so powerful that the minute we change our point of view, the minute we change our perspective, the minute we decide that I want to see the best in this man, we're able to improve the whole entire culture in our house. I heard this woman on a podcast say that she says, me as a woman, I'm in control of the climate in my house. I could either make it really cold where if I'm being disrespectful, I could make it either really cold where there's Cold War, there's no talking, or I could make it really hot where there's yelling and screaming and at each other's throats. Or she's like, when I choose to tap into the six intimacy skills and use them, I keep the temperature in my home, I keep it nice and comfortable for everyone. So that's how powerful we are. One of the most tragic situations that I commonly see is a woman saying, I had to divorce him because he was so mean and grumpy all the time. I was miserable and he was miserable. So clearly we weren't compatible. Really, what happened is that she was being disrespectful and her husband was responding in an angry, defensive manner. Meaning she wasn't being on purpose disrespectful. I feel like this word disrespectful, sometimes it kind of touches like a point in us. Like, what do you mean? I'm not disrespectful. But in the men's world, in their culture, because respect means so much to them, that when we show them, I don't trust you, I know better than you, we're constantly telling them how to do things, and we treat them like children. This is what being disrespectful is about. This is what she means when she says being disrespectful, not treating them like a full person, treating them like a dumb child, that he doesn't know what he's doing and I know better. And let me tell him every single part and let me control every single part of him. I call this the helpful, hurt, hopeless cycle. And the only way to permanently disrupt is at the beginning. Stop being helpful. Remember, helpful is wife language translated into critical in husband language. So on our planet, helpful. On husband planet, it's critical. Like he sees it as she doesn't trust me. She's criticizing me. She doesn't think that, I'm masculine, I'm man enough to be able to, that I'm up to the task. If that sounds extreme to you, it did to me too initially. But over time, I've come to appreciate that it's actually more enjoyable to be the girl of fun and light than it is to be the Wikipedia wife who knows everything. My husband calls me I don't need Google because my wife knows everything. Unfortunately. Hopefully we're working on changing that up. When I stop trying to be helpful, I can relax and have fun with my husband again. The same will happen for you when you decide to keep your helpfulness to a minimum. So this is very interesting. Like once we decide to break the cycle, helpful, hurt, hopeless. So once we stop being helpful, that's when we break the cycle. We don't have to feel hopeless anymore. Your husband is smarter than you think. Professors at our leading universities indoctrinate impressionable undergraduates who carelessly fact-free theories alleging that gender is an arbitrary oppressing fiction with no basis in biology. Men and women are not the same. Part of learning the 6 intimacy skills is acknowledging and celebrating how different men and women are. Just as John Gray said, men really are from Mars and women are from Venus. It says it everywhere in the Torah that, in the United States and in all the Western countries, it's like, oh, women and men are equal. Women and we need equality, equality, equality. Equal is not the same, meaning Hashem made me as a woman. I'm not meant to be carrying heavy boxes. Like my upper body will not be able to do that. Like my husband is they're stronger than us. Hashem made us that way. We don't have to do the same things. We're different people. We have our own strengths and we have our own challenges that we come into this world with. And when we acknowledge that, he doesn't need to be a woman. I don't need to be a man. I am perfect as I am and he is perfect as he is. Once we come into our own powers and we accept that about each other, we live in much more peace, in a much more peaceful relationship with each other. It takes some time adjusting to get used to the cultural differences between these two planets. I became acutely aware of this one day at the beach, playing volleyball with friends. Oh, I love this example. Mike had his 8-year-old son Matthew with him, and in between games, he asked Matthew, "Do you want to have a race down the water?" Matthew's face lit up. "Yeah," he said excitedly. They both crouched like runners at a startling block, and Mike said, "On your mark, get set." And just as he said go, he shoved his son into the sand and took off running to the water. My friend Raina and I were both appalled at Mike's behavior. I couldn't believe a grown man could do something like this to a little child. But my friend Dave thought it was funny, and so did Mike. In fact, so did Matthew, the little boy. They were all laughing while Raina and I stood there with our mouths hanging open in shock. All males thought this was great fun, and all the females thought it was mean. Imagine this dad who's running with his son. He's like, ready, set, go, and he just shoves them into the sand, right? And all the guys are laughing, and all the ladies are like, oh my God, what a horrible dad. How could he do that, right? What a great example of how different masculine culture is than feminine culture. I asked Mike later if he felt that he was teaching his son something important in that moment. He said, definitely, I was teaching him that life isn't fair and that sometimes it's more important to have fun than to worry about winning. I was also teaching him about being tough and how to be a guy with other guys. That reminded me that Mike is responsible for teaching Matthew how to be a man. And a lot of times when our children have, um, you know, they disagree with something with our husband, like this was me, that I always felt like I have to be mama bear. I have to step in. I have to come in the middle of my kids and my husband. And my husband is wrong and my kids are right. But what I was stealing from my kids and I was stealing from my husband because my children, I really truly believe this from the bottom of my heart, that my children's neshamot chose me as their mother and they chose him as his father. Even though in my perspective it's harsh and I want to protect my kids and I want them to always be in a relationship where it's soft and loving, but that's not always. We need the gevura and we need the chesed. We need both of them. Hashem put us in this world with both, and so as much chesed as we give them, sometimes they need that gevura from their father. It prepares them into the world, and when we kind of come in between that and we intervene, we steal that from them. We steal that experience from them because they have to get ready for the real world, and their fathers are there to prepare them for that. As much as we prepare them with the chesed, the fathers kind of give them that gevura. That reminded me that Mike is responsible for teaching Matthew how to be a man. His mother can't do it, nor can any woman. Only a man can show a boy how to be a man. And this was apparently part of the lesson. Thankfully, now that I have the 6 intimacy skills, I can appreciate the difference in the male culture where I used to be critical of it and think I knew better. So a lot of humility. This work really, really, really takes a lot of humility. A woman could easily witness that interaction and think that Mike was a jerk. From the perspective of female culture, he was being mean. A woman would never push a little girl like that. I respect Mike a lot, and it still jarred my feminine sensibilities. I wanted to protect Matthew in that moment, but the truth is, Matthew was fine. He was getting initiated into being one of the guys. Ellen had a similar experience when she saw her husband playing catch with her sons in the front yard. Her husband was throwing the ball too hard, so she ran out to explain to him that he needed to be gentle with them. How many times have we done that with our husbands? They're still little, she scolded him, and they could get hurt. Neither her husband or the boys seemed to appreciate her comments, and it ended the game of catch altogether. But Ellen was sure she was doing the right thing, protecting her cubs from their insensitive father. Then Ellen learned the 6 intimacy skills. Later, she told me, I have to rethink everything I thought I knew. It's not easy to admit, but I think I did the wrong thing that day when they were playing catch. If I want my husband to teach my little boys to be men, I have to let him do it his way. What if other boys throw the ball hard at my sons? My husband was preparing them for that. Plus, they were all having a good time until I inserted myself into the situation and tried to control it. And that was the end of their fun. I was so sure I was right. But there was a high price to pay for interfering with my boys' relationship with their dad. I wasn't respectful of his role in their lives. In other words, Ellen's husband was a smart Martian, but that wasn't immediately obvious from her Venetian perspective. How capable is your husband? One reaction I had to the cultural difference between my husband and me was embarrassment. I worried that if other people saw his peculiar masculine behavior, they would think, as I secretly did, that there was something wrong with him. Looking back, that seemed like a remarkably self-righteous point of view, but I didn't see it at that time. Instead, I saw it as my job to try to mitigate, correct, or soften that peculiar behavior, or at least the appearance of it to the outside world, so that people wouldn't think my husband was uncivilized. I'm not the only one. Mandy's version of the same sensibility was to feel that her husband was lazy and irresponsible for not getting his holiday shopping done early. She finished hers more than a month in advance, and he clearly hadn't even started by then, so she decided to take over his shopping. She even bought her own Christmas present from her husband to herself. She wrapped it, not controlling at all. She wrapped it and put it under the tree and let him know that it was all taken care of, that he'd gotten her something nice for Christmas. That was early on in her marriage. And 7 years later, she was still buying her own present and putting it under the tree every year. And it didn't feel very good. She complained to her mother, "It's so hurtful. He doesn't even buy me a Christmas present. I have to do it myself. I really want him to do it, and I just don't know why he won't." Her mother, who knew the 6 intimacy skills, pointed out that Mandy had taught her husband how not to get her anything by buying presents for herself for so many years. There's a very famous quote: "We teach people how to treat us." So if we're going to fill up that space, we don't give them that space to come in and to come into it. That space is already full. Liz said that it's not uncommon for men to go Christmas shopping even right on Christmas Eve. She suggested that shopping at the last minute might even be part of male culture. You know, men do things differently than us. Liz suggested that Mandy consider not buying herself a present this year, but cautioned her that since she was changing the rules, it might mean that she wouldn't get anything. So when we change the rules, when we finally start to make that space, the first year we might not get anything, but we're creating that space for him to come and fill it. But Liz said that Mandy would be opening up the space to allow her husband to feel the full responsibility and delight of being able to make his own decisions about what to buy his wife. For the first time, Mandy understood that she had robbed her husband of that pleasure by buying his gift for him. She felt vulnerable about not buying her own present for the first time, but she also agreed with her mom that there was no other way to go to a place where she would feel desired and cherished. She was going to have to start respecting his choices about gift buying when it happened and what she received in order to get the intimacy she was craving. Mandy decided to apologize to her husband for being disrespectful by controlling the gifts for all those years. So she started out by sending him an apology. We could either text it or write it in a letter, or if we're really, really brave, say it out loud. Not just the one to her, but what he bought for his daughters and other family members as well. She explained that she didn't want to operate that way anymore, and that she was relinquishing the job from there on, starting with deciding what he should get his daughter for her upcoming birthday. Mandy was nervous and exhilarated, telling her husband that these things, she didn't know what would happen. Would she and the girls be disappointed, or would her husband rise to the occasion and pick out a nice present for them? A short time later, Mandy and her husband were at a jewelry store when he excitedly said, "I'll get a birthday present for Brittany here." Mandy got a glimpse of the joy her husband felt about the prospect of getting his little girl a present of his own choosing. He was so happy when he found the perfect bracelet, and Mandy couldn't believe she had been depriving him of that joy all these years. It was so moving to see him wanting to express his love for his daughter by getting her a beautiful gift. I was so happy for me, for him, and for our daughter that I got tears in my eyes, Mandy said. I got out of the way and stopped controlling him. And there was so much more pleasure than I ever imagined when I started buying his presents for him so many years ago. I'll never do that again. Now that I see what's been costing all of us, I'm glad I finally trusted my husband. So how many times do we have this story in our head that if I trust him, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be the way that I want it. It's not going to be, I'm not going to feel good about it. And we go into control mode, like we go into manipulating or, you know, just not trusting him, just controlling the whole situation of what we get and how we get it and how it happens. But in the end, we end up really robbing ourselves. We're taking away from our own connection and from trusting him and from giving him the ability to, both to be giving to us and to receive, to be a vessel for receiving. What do you notice about him? I had one wife, Layla, tell me that there was no way she could respect her husband. What could I respect him for? She asked. In 10 years of marriage, he's never once taken me on vacation. What could I respect him? I said, I hear that you're disappointed that he's never taking you on vacation. I also remember you mentioned that he pays the mortgage, correct? Well, yeah, but he has to live somewhere. He lets us live with him, but so what? Just like that, she dismissed how much her husband contributed to the family by paying the mortgage on their beautiful home in an upscale neighborhood. That's the biggest bill of all in most households. But to her, it was nothing. I asked, didn't you also tell me that every day after work he calls you and asks you what he should bring home for dinner? Yes. And no matter what I say, whether it's lobster or steak or even Supermax, which he hates, he will always bring whatever I ask for. So when she was giving him direct, she was expressing her desires, he was coming in and fulfilling it. He was starting to sound like a pretty considerate man to me, but Layla didn't agree. He's a very selfish man, she insisted. That's an affirmation, I told her. Is that serving you? From the outside, it looked like she was married to a great guy, but chose not to focus on that. Instead, she was fixated on how he hadn't taken her on vacation for 10 years. It was clear to me that he likely felt so disrespected around her that he didn't want to go on vacation together. It would have been too painful for him. So he's in, I need to defend myself, I need to protect myself because she doesn't trust me. She doesn't see that I want to give to her, and he's feeling disrespectful, so he's just trying to protect his pain, and that's why he's not inviting her on vacation. Layla didn't know it, but she held the key to getting what she wanted. But even considering my perception of her husband that he was generous and provided well for her and her daughter seemed like too much of a stretch for Layla. What would you see if you took a stranger's perception of your husband or looked at him with fresh eyes, as though you were seeing him for the very first time? What qualities do you think a stranger would appreciate or admire about him? Meaning, Hashem creates the world brand new every single day. And if we choose to see our husband from a different perspective, we are literally, we're creating that version of him. So what version of him do we want? And we have the power to create that version of him. Whatever we focus on, we increase. I can understand Layla's dilemma. When I thought my husband was lazy, I believe my perception was the truth too. I had all kinds of evidence because that's what I focused on. However, once I started treating him with respect and looking at him through new eyes, I saw a really hardworking, responsible, accomplished guy. And I discovered that I didn't know as much as I thought I did. If we look for those qualities, that he's hardworking, responsible, accomplished, that's what we're going to find. Whatever we focus on, we get more of. Today, I don't think my husband is lazy at all. And the only thing that changed was my perspective and my attitude. Once that changed, my husband responded to me with much more generosity, playfulness, and tenderness, just the way I wanted him to. It pays to be respectful. This is a really good one. This is about how we as wives, we control the parnasa. And when we're respectful, we see the increase in every single area of our life, in our intimacy, in our parnasa, because when our husband feels that we trust him, he gets out of that fight or flight mode, and he's in a space of creating. He's in a space of creating abundance for us. He has more clarity, more creativity at work, and with ideas and how to bring more income into the family. Another benefit to changing your perspective and focusing on the ways your husband is smart, capable, and competent is that it's going to improve the prosperity at your house. Like, we're all abundance, abundance, abundance. How do I manifest abundance? By respecting our husband, by trusting him, by seeing the good in him. This is our superpower. That's how we increase abundance in our home. When your husband looks into your eyes and sees reflected back that you think he's a loser, that drains his self-esteem. If you reinforce that you think he's stupid with your words, he brings that low self-esteem with him out into the world. That will negatively affect his performance at work and in other aspects of his life. However, if he looks into your eyes and sees that you think he's smart, capable, and competent, that will affect his self-worth in a positive way. If the woman who knows him best in the world believes he's wise and has good judgment, he will be that kind of man. He'll see the evidence of your opinion every day, every time you tell him, whatever you think, I trust you, or that was a good idea. Thank you for taking care of that. All those things reinforce his sense of high self-worth and help him perform better in all aspects of his life. The people we surround ourselves with contribute greatly to our perception of ourselves. Everyone around us is a mirror in some way. If you're not feeling confident that your husband is smart, capable, and competent right now, it's okay to fake it till you make it. Just be sure to act as if all those things, as if he is all those things, while you're gathering your evidence. Gathering evidence can be a very helpful way to bring that vision into reality, and it will lead to enjoying the connection you crave. And that is the end of chapter 10. Wow, we did 2 chapters today. I'm proud of us. So any comments, any questions, any elaborations? Shana, you always have something wise and beautiful to share.
I'm actually holding. I wanted to say something, but I'm holding myself.
Please, please. I love what you share.
So I want to tell you that she says how your husband becomes smart. Like before, I never knew that my husband was smart, and now when he talks and when he says something, I was like, oh my gosh, he's such a smart man. Like I really see that he's a smart man, and I always thought he was stupid, and I was the smart one. Like
Yep.
really,
And
do
when
you
we
see the
look,
difference?
I so do. I so do. I'll tell you, my
It's so
husband,
crazy to see that difference.
it's he doesn't need to change. When we change our perspective, he starts responding. And when we look for clues, we look for the evidence that he's smart, it shows up.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like amazing.
You said something about looking at your spouse like an outside person looking in.
Like meaning looking at him as if you just met him. Like, let all the past, let it go. As if, all the resentments, all the history, let it go. Look at him with brand new eyes, with a fresh set of eyes. Like you're just meeting him for the first time. Because a lot of times the way that we look at our husband is just like based on past. And what we do with that is we recreate the same cycle by when I already have a belief about him, right? That he's this and he's this and he's this and he's that, I kind of recreate that and he shows up as that person. So if I want to break that cycle, if I look at him with fresh eyes, with a fresh perspective that he's smart, he's confident, all the things that I want him to be, he's going to show up as that.
But I'm saying, even if you don't change your perspective and you practice the tools, suddenly you see that he's smart. He's saying smart things, he's doing smart things. I'm telling you, they change. It's crazy how it works.
Right, because we start seeing them from a different, because we start respecting them, we start trusting them, and
Right.
then we start, right, and then we start seeing that part of them. Like she was saying, all I had to do was change my perspective. It
Yeah.
was that, and look for that evidence of what you want and fake it till you make it. If right now I don't believe that he is those things, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy. We do that with our kids. I do call our kids my tzaddik, my amazing boy, my super smart, beautiful girl. It's like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. How do we want, if we call our child, you're stupid, you don't know anything, that's what they're gonna, the prophecy is gonna come out to that. But by calling our child tzaddik, chacham, all of these things that we want them to be, that and then they live up to that. So we can apply the same thing to our husband. I trust you. Whatever you think, I know that what you think, not what you want, not whatever you want. Want is us. We are the want. They are the thing. So a lot of times we kind of get lost and confuse those two, and we tell them whatever you want. So whenever we say to them, whatever you want, it's like they get confused because we tell them what we want, and our wants give them a roadmap to fulfill our desires, and then they feel happy, and because he did his job and I got in touch with my desires and I'm feeling happy. On a feminine masculine level, we have a balance because we're here to be in touch with our desires and they're here to fulfill those desires. Right? Any insights, Yal? I only see your two faces. That's why I'm picking on you too.
So
Right,
quiet. It's normally never quiet.
I know.
Everyone's
Sudat,
becoming a perfectionist.
is that you?
Eh,
What do you think?
Everyone's having shalom bayis, Baruch Hashem. That's why there are no questions.
I started using these skills and I'm sending my husband all these things that, I really love this and I really love that. And he keeps sending me these weird things like, he's trying to be manipulative, like
He's not used to the new
So
Yael.
can I tell you
he thinks
something
I'm
that we're
trying
gonna
to trick him.
something that we're gonna learn in later chapters is that when we start changing, they're going to be baiting us. Like he's going to like meaning, like a hook in the fish with bait. So it's just bait. Don't bite on it because you're doing a new dance, right? You've been doing this dance for a while where you were kind of we do with our control, we do
Manipulating, right.
manipulate. So now I'm like, you know what? I don't want to manipulate. So I'm doing this different dance. And he's like, but the steps are different. What is this? So he's going to bait you to try to get you back into doing those steps, but stay true to the steps, stay true to the skills. And he's going to come in and, dance those steps, the new steps with you. But just there is a moment, there is time to kind of process. There's a process that goes as confused as they are, they're kind of processing like what is happening. You're showing up and like, who are you? Who like you're
Literally,
that,
that's what's going on.
and it's part of the process. It's so normal, and just stay the course and don't, just notice that he's feeling uncomfortable because you're showing up as a new version of yourself. So just be
Yeah.
patient. Yeah, and don't take the bait. And don't take it personally. Just know that he's, as much as you're going through a change, that he's also going through a change. He's feeling uncomfortable too. He's like, what is this?
He's not used to this. He's like, you're
He's not used to
manipulating me. I'm not, this is
You're
manipulation.
manipulating me in a different way. I'm gonna have to figure this out. That's what he's
Yeah,
thinking.
yeah.
Like, what's happening
So
here?
as much as you're working on trusting him, he's working on trusting. So just keep doing it. Just keep trusting him. I trust you. I trust whatever you think. I trust what you think. You're smart. You're capable. I trust what you think. I trust you. All right, ladies, I'm going to stop the recording
Fair
here.
enough.
Thank you so much for joining.